Welcome to another episode of Dan Frequently Asked Questions. In this episode, we're going to be discussing joint decompression illness. Keep watching. We got a question from a diver regarding what the implications were and in fact what the causes were of joint decompression illness and whether they were serious or not. Well, the most useful way to think about it is, what is it in our joints that can cause pain? And they're fairly limited. They would include stretching of the capsule, which is essentially the greasy lining in which the bone is situated, allowing it free movement. It is the tendons and surrounding cartilage or junctures between muscle and tendon. It may be the bone itself, and specifically the medulla of the bone, which in the arms and legs contains fat, or it may be the result of a referred pain. In other words, pain somewhere in the spinal cord, or possibly stretching of the nerves, which has nothing to do with decompression illness, causing pain in a joint. And the most notable one is C5, which gives you pain over the shoulder area. Now, with that in mind, let's just consider the possible consequences. If you were to get a bubble in the tendons or in the cartilage or in the joint capsule or anywhere other than the medulla of the bone, in which case it would be sharp, usually well localized, you could put your finger on it, it would be affected by movement, and it would typically respond to anti-inflammatory medication. However, the more serious type that we are concerned about is medullary bone decompression illness, and that is a gnawing, almost like teeth in the bone, that you experience in the shaft of the bone, and that is the result of engorgement. In other words, it is lack of backflow of blood from the bone and collection of bubbles that eventually causes bone necrosis. Now, this is very uncommon in recreational diving, and for that reason, when individuals have done relatively conservative diving and not on mixed gases or prolonged decompressions, we are usually not particularly concerned about isolated joint-only decompression illness, particularly if 6 or 7 to 8 hours have already elapsed. At that stage, getting a dramatic increase in symptoms is virtually unheard of. It does happen, but is virtually unheard of. So the right thing to do, if it's suspected, is to treat the person with oxygen first aid, go through all the preparation and the telephone calls and communication as if this were a deteriorating case of decompression illness, and then, if the symptoms subside or are found to be due to some other cause, then calling the evacuation off. But not all forms of joint decompression illness are equally harmful. The ones that are related to the tendons or joints are in a sense no different to a sprain. Yes, they may take longer to heal if they don't get recompressed, and we would never discourage a diver from being recompressed if recompression is readily available, but they will not suffer long-term debilitating symptoms if they don't receive decompression or recompression in particular. And for that reason, we have brought out the UHMS Remote Decompression Illness Workshop, which very carefully outlines the various parameters under which it may not be as urgent to get the person to a recompression chamber. Thank you for the question, and until next time, safe diving.